Welcome to the Pit Lane, a Formula One podcast where we talk about everything Formula One. In this episode, we will talk about our own track rankings. We'll talk about tracks that we want to add to the calendar, tracks we want to get removed, and some of our favorites that we have now. I am your host, Jordan Wynn. Alongside me is Alden Kwell. How are you doing today, Alden?
Doing great, Jordan. It's great to see you again. Really excited to talk about tracks and our favorites and some of the ones that we don't care for too much.
Yeah, it should be a good chat. Talk about all the ones on the calendar currently, kind of go through which ones we like, which ones we don't like. Where do you want to start? You want to start at the top or the bottom?
Let's start at the top.
All right. So we kind of went through ranking system here, 1 through 5 on what we want to keep 100% to get rid of immediately, essentially, is what were my feelings on it. Tracks we want to keep: Suzuka, Spa, Sao Paulo are the big ones. Red Bull Ring, Monza,
Coda. Yeah.
Those were on, Coda was on your list.
Suzuka, Spa, and Sao Paulo are ones that we had a 1 to 5 ranking, 1 being a top-notch circuit.
Yes.
Number 1. 2, getting into sort of the like it, it's good. 3 being sort of neutral, like it's got some good things, it's got some bad things. 4 being meh. And then 5 being like, this is a dud and it should go.
Yeah.
So both of us have Suzuka, Spa, and the Sao Paulo Interlagos circuit all as ones.
Correct.
Each of us just agree completely. Those are some of the best circuits on the calendar.
Yes. Suzuka, because great driver's track. It's the only one in Japan. Atmosphere is great every year.
Don't they have one at Fuji?
They used to. They don't anymore.
Gone?
This is the current calendar.
Yeah, yeah,
current calendar. Yep, they used to. But yeah, great track, great atmosphere. All the drivers think it's a great track to drive. It's a good challenge. It's fun.
Sectors have something interesting going on.
Yep. And some of the racing can be okay at times, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Certainly was better this year.
Yes, it was. And rain.
Yeah.
Rain happens. I don't know. I wouldn't want to say half the time, but it feels that way. Spa.
One of the best circuits on the calendar by far.
Yes.
Just the elevation changes. Eau Rouge, Raidillon, the Kemmel Straight, that whole rear sector where they come back to the main grandstand, the whole Ardennes forest. It's just special.
It's
It
unique.
feels special. It's unique.
It's fun. Yeah. Fans love it. Some fans may not love going there because of the rain again, but
The
usually,
1 year where they didn't really have a race, they did not like it.
no, that was bad, but that's why it's one. It's a great track. We all love it. Drivers love it. Racing's usually good. Sao Paulo. We both love it.
We both love it.
I feel like it produces great racing every year.
Every year. There's hardly a dud.
Yeah. It used to be the finishing race on the calendar. It still should be.
It should be.
Should be. They have a sprint race there now, so
They clearly understand that it's a good circuit for the racing.
Right.
It just it feels like there's a good race every year there. The cars can follow one another. There's nothing fancy. There's nothing crazy, or like the circuit design isn't out of this world with like gimmicky corners or whatnot. It's just a straight up racetrack.
yeah.
A couple straights, couple turns, little this, little that. Bada bing, bada boom.
It works,
It works.
and it's a lot of fun.
It's simple, and I don't mean that in like a negative way. It's simple in a very good way.
Right. This moves on to kind of the one where we got mixed in here. So those are our 3 that we all agreed on. Red Bull Ring. I had it as a 2. You had it as a 1.
Yes, I think Red Bull Ring and Interlagos share some interesting characteristics in the fact that they're both simple and they both produce some really good racing.
There is good racing there every
There's
year.
very good racing there. Some years it's really warm in the mountains, and then there's heat cooling issues. Some years there's rain, like during the COVID years where they had the double header there.
Yep.
The one weekend where they were
qualifying in the rain.
crazy amounts of rain, and they just went and they pushed. The circuit's fast. It's full throttle. There's a couple great straights. There's great passing. We had some incidents this last year with the track. People were not staying on track.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And that sort of maybe highlights
track limits.
track limit violations. Thank you. It sort of highlights maybe some of the issues with it, but I still think it produces some great racing, and it's very fun to see. It's great scenery as well on the side of a mountain.
Yeah. You always have pictures of people like,
it's
they're
insane.
sitting up there with like binoculars, checking out the racetrack. Right. And it's like, oh, we got my tractor up there. Here we go.
And the crazy, like, it feels like one of those circuits that the commercialization of it, it's called the Red Bull Ring. It doesn't feel unnatural.
And it's not like they put Red Bull cans everywhere.
No,
it's
they
not,
have a giant Red Bull sign. That's it.
Yeah, well, they have a giant bull
That's
statue.
right. The giant Red Bull. That's it.
And it's it doesn't feel over the top, like you said.
No.
It's like you're saying, it's a simple, great built racetrack. It's fun.
It deserves
Racing's
to be
good.
on the calendar.
Yes. Monza.
You have it as a 2. I have it as a 1.
It's a great track. Saying I like it. Racing's usually good. You know, so obviously it's Ferrari's big homestand. So, I mean, I probably should have listed it as a 1 here. It's Ferrari's big main staple, Temple of Speed.
It's literally called the Temple of Speed.
It's a lot of fun to watch. Ferrari fan, the Tifosi is always great. I feel like a lot of these venues, in our top list, it's the fans are a big part of it too.
Right.
The atmosphere is usually
Spa,
really good.
Sao Paulo, Red Bull Ring,
Monza.
Yeah.
What's not to love?
What's not to love
about those tracks?
These are like the Mount Rushmore of race circuits.
Right.
Both for a driver, like we talked about in Spa and Suzuka, but also for the fans and a viewing experience. If you don't have the luxury of being able to go to these circuits, these are the races you want to see.
Right. And they're not bougie. They're not too crazy, like in terms of cost wise. Maybe getting there, depending on where you're from. Maybe Austria
Or
might
just
be a
even
little
on the
bit tough to get
TV.
to.
These are the funds. These are the ones you want to watch. You
Yeah.
want to tune into.
You don't want to miss these, right? You don't want to miss these ones. These are must.
Do not
must
want to
watch.
miss Interlagos whatsoever.
Never, ever, ever.
Like that year where Lewis Hamilton started last and he just willed himself to 10th.
It was like that sprint race.
Oh, that was insane.
Yeah.
The sprint race.
Yeah.
He gets the penalty. He gets a double penalty, and then he wins the race.
Right.
Greatest drive I've seen in my life.
It was crazy. A lot of
Interlagos. Wouldn't have happened
We're going back
anywhere
to
else.
Interlagos. And they were talking about getting rid of it. Remember that?
That's right.
A couple years ago?
Rio.
Yeah. And everyone was like, oh boy, let's
Yeah,
not.
are you sure?
Don't open that can of worms. The only one down in South America.
Right. One more where you've got a 2 and I've got a 1.
COTA. Circuit of the Americas.
We've been there.
Yes.
We like it.
Yes, we do.
I like it a little bit more than you like it.
I guess. But I guess I still wouldn't take it off the calendar if I had a choice.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like I have to have COTA, but I do love it, and I'd be really sad if it wasn't there.
Over the years that we've been racing at Sakota, it's been what, 6 or 7 or 8 years, maybe a little bit longer.
It's been probably a
Maybe
decade,
little bit.
right?
Decade, okay. I feel like it's solidified itself as one of the better circuits on the calendar. I think it highlights the American experience, Texas flair.
It's the Texas big.
It's the Texas
it feels.
thing. And
yeah.
like, within America, I wouldn't brag about Texas, but when I'm overseas, they're still part of us.
Right.
We gotta stand up for our folks.
Right.
And
In the Formula One matter.
correct, right? Yeah, there's a lot of races here that are.
Well, especially when you're talking about American tracks, that's on the calendar.
It is.
This is the one you
quintessential
have to keep.
right?
This is the one. Vegas, well, we'll get to the other ones later.
other ones.
But yeah, this is the one you need to keep.
And it's like you kind of you see some of these videos of F1 drivers being asked to design their perfect circuit, right? Oh, I'll take this corner from this circuit. I'll take that straight from that circuit. I'll take this scenery from over there. I like the asphalt over here. COTA literally is that.
Yeah.
COTA is a fever dream of the best corners and the best characteristics and the best driving moments and features from all the F1 circuits that have existed. You got a super long back straight. You've got S's. You've got a big giant hill.
Got the big hairpin.
You've got the big hairpin. You've got sort of like the corner into corner into corner, not the S, but like the triple right hander or whatever.
Yep.
You've got sort of like some hard double corners like you do in some other circuits that require some really like precise driving.
And kind of have some blind corners too.
Exactly.
Uphill.
You've
Like,
got track violation areas where like things get dicey. You've got like a couple places that you can pass on. It just somehow they made some of the best characteristics from multiple circuits, all paying homage to them and then making it work.
it worked. That's the big, and this might be the last track that Tilke got to work.
I agree.
Proper. Proper.
Yeah.
And we love it, obviously. We've been there. It's great.
Great food.
Yeah, food's awesome. Next on our list, it's the only one that the only one we both had twos on. Montreal.
I like it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful track. Atmosphere is good. It's unique. It's on an island.
Right.
Probably hard to see, other areas of it. You can't compared to Coda, at least, you have big hills and stuff. You can see more of the track just by walking around versus here. You can't. There's no elevation really, but it's a beautiful track. It's fun to watch every year. Racing's usually good.
Yep.
Hard to complain about.
No, Montreal. I agree. I like that Montreal.
Gilles Villeneuve.
Yeah, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is essentially, if you distill it down to its most basic parts, 5 straightaways connected by really slow speeds corners.
Yep.
Or 6 straightaways.
With a chicane.
With chicanes connecting them all. Mm-hmm. You think about it. They go down the first opening straight into a double turn, and then it's another straightaway to a hairpin or to a chicane.
Yep.
And then another straightaway until another chicane. And then you get the back straightaway all the way to the giant hairpin.
Yep.
And then you go one more straightaway all the way to the pits. Another chicane.
Yeah,
Wall of Champions. Another straightaway.
Then your best start finish straight.
That's what it is. It's like 8 corners and 5 straightaways. And somehow it works. They have a wall that's called the Wall of Champions. That's how good this race circuit is.
Right.
There are like 12 turns. They're all the exact same. And there's a corner that's lit. You just think about the moments there. Robert Kubica's giant crash. Oh, iconic.
Yes.
Thank God he's all right. You have the badger moment or the beaver moment.
The creatures groundhogs or whatever.
Right. The groundhogs are walking across. You have those insane races where like Michael Schumacher hits the wall of champions. It's this place where like famous drivers have hit the wall and knocked themselves off. David Coulthard and others have hit the wall. Damon Hill, I think, even hit the wall. We have one of the world's most famous races that we've seen, like the 5-hour mega race with all the rain and the dries and the rain and the dries.
Yep.
The huge moment with Sebastian Vettel where he had the race.
The penalty.
The race that he
swaps the signs to his car. The first place to his car.
Legendary.
Great track.
Great moments.
A lot of fun. So we get in a list where we kind of differ a little bit from I like to meh. We'll start with where I'm ranking just because mine came first. I have I have Monaco as a 2. And you have it as a 3.
Yeah.
I have it as a 2 solely because of qualifying. It is the test of commitment, skill, and desire, maybe would be a good word for it, to go for it. This is the ultimate test of what can your car do and the commitment to it. You have it as a 3.
I think everything that you said is correct. For me, if it was if Monaco was changed to a slightly different format, that's what I would like to see. A race, it's not really a race, but like where qualifying matters so much. I like it. I like that, but the race itself is a bit boring.
It is.
You can have some interesting moments, not necessarily from passing, but like that year that Daniel Ricciardo won when he was driving with a broken car. Right? That was really
he lost his 2 top gears.
Yeah.
But you didn't necessarily need
gear
8 in Monaco.
Right. There's the glitz. That's a glamour. It's one of the most famous races for that reason. Kimi's moment of crashing out of the race
and walking out to his yacht with his buddies,
just drinking his beer that was so funny. But I just feel like it's a show more than a race.
Yes.
And if we're ranking the circuits for what they provide for racing, for me, it's a 3. If we start bringing in some other things like it's a great weekend and I don't want it to lose it. But the race itself is a bit.
Do you think teams should bring their road cars in?
Well, then Red Bull can't win, and neither can Williams.
They'd have to build one for
They'd have to
Monaco.
build one.
No, I get that. I 100% understand that. It is a glitz and glamour show. It's, everyone still wants to win it. It's a staple, but racing's not good.
With the current cars, it's not fun.
They're too big.
They're too big and they're too heavy.
Yeah, it just doesn't work for modern day Formula One. But I love the qualifying. The Saturday's a must see for any F1 fan. Imola. I have Imola as a 2. I love it because of the uniqueness, the old school track. The racing can be okay. We've seen it a couple of times. We missed out on it last year.
Yeah, due to the flooding.
So I'm trying to think. Yeah, we saw it with the new regs the year before,
the 1
though.
year, yep.
Yep, and that was all right. I think it was a wet day, too.
Yeah, it was one of the earlier races of the season. I remember porpoising was still an issue, but...
Yeah. I think the word is still out on the new regs for this, but I'm glad they brought it back. I think it's a lot of fun. I just like the old school layout. There's no runoff, essentially.
For good or bad.
Yeah. At the modern F1, I think these drivers are too good. The cars are too good. You need to be punished for your mistakes where applicable.
No, I agree. It's legendary for some of the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
With some unfortunate events that have happened in the past. It's a good circuit. It's a good driver's circuit. There's, I think, some really interesting corners, especially on the sector 2 and 3. I just don't really find the race all that engaging.
Sure.
Then that's why I have Imola as a 3. Again, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but it just, since we've returned, it hasn't produced an event that is memorable, aside from one incident, which is just George Russell and Valtteri Bottas crashing.
Lewis went off too.
Oh,
and he got saved by the red flag or whatever, yellow.
Yeah, I forgot.
Car. Yeah, it saved it. But yeah, you're right with that aspect.
It just hasn't produced a moment that is all that memorable.
Modern F1.
Right.
Yep.
In the 4 or 5 years that we've been there since COVID.
Yep. Silverstone, I have as a 2. You have it as a 3.
Yeah, that's a bit controversial.
That will be.
But it's a boring circuit.
I think so.
I do.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's just flat. It's just a field.
It is.
There's great corners, and there tends to be great racing.
Isn't that what we're here for?
But it's just not a fun circuit to watch.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's what we're doing. We're watching the race.
Sure. Oh, I think I probably enjoyed it a little. Clearly I do.
It's one of the best. Like, the fans are great. The volume that you get from Silverstone is insane.
Right.
It is one of those events. It's almost as iconic as Monaco or some of the other super iconic races like Monza where you get just the super fans out there. The fans love the British drivers and the British teams there. Lewis Hamilton has his huge amount of fans. George Russell, Lando Norris now. Like, I love watching that, but that's not ultimately the race or the circuit. And for me, the track is just a bit boring. There's some really interesting high-speed corners that I think were more interesting when the cars had a little bit less lateral downforce. Now that they can it's just a little too flat out for me. And I think it's cheapened a bit of the daringness in the race. And maybe I've got that wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But for me, I think the circuit's just a bit flat, and it could do with some more interesting features.
I think that's fair. I think the last memorable race was probably one that was wet. And I think it was, or that might have even been Germany.
The moment where Lewis Hamilton passes 2 cars, Perez and Leclerc, that's iconic.
Yeah, yes. And that was last year.
I think that was last year, yeah.
Yeah, I think Sainz won that race. No, 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Maybe.
Yeah, where Sainz won from second or third.
Yeah.
Because Leclerc didn't pit.
But they are reliant on late safety cars, it feels like.
Yep.
I enjoy the track. Like I said, the atmosphere is always really fun. And I think I'm not going to say that's half of it because we're there for the racing,
But it's a huge part.
But it is a huge part of it. Atmosphere is a big thing in any sporting event.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is not there. It's just not as fun.
If I could give it a 2.5, I would have given it a 2.5.
I mean, you could have.
That would have broken the rules.
I actually had different. I had decimals, then I changed them back for some of them. Singapore I had as a 2. I like it because it was the first real night race. It's unique. It's a street track that works. It tests you qualifying. It works better now, I should say. Racing can be okay. It's gotten better. And it creates a challenge that's different from a lot of the other ones. It's bumpy. It's rough. It's tough. It's difficult to drive. And it tests you. It's hotter than hell.
It's very humid. You're
most
right.
of the time.
It is demanding.
It's a test top to bottom. It's a test of your car. It's a test of the driver. You just look at Red Bull last year. It's the one track that got them, and it got them big. And it wasn't even close.
You're right. No, you're right.
Not to say that happens every year, but it provides a much different challenge than I think a lot of the other tracks on the calendar does. You had it as a 3.
Yeah, you're making some really good points, and I almost just changed my mind.
Almost.
I think ultimately this last year was the first year that we saw Singapore provide us a experience from start to finish that gave us true racing.
Yeah.
With passing, with aggressive following. I think back over the years in recent memory. Let me caveat that with recent memory. I can remember for a long time you couldn't pass at all because there's just not enough space.
Well, and they had that other set of chicane too,
right?
That they
had
put
to
in, and they removed
to
it.
give more straightaway, and that was a key improvement. But the cars are big. The cars are finicky behind others. You're right that it's very humid. It could be wet. It makes it more difficult to follow and to pass. But I think about like the 3 most iconic moments from Singapore over the years. Number 1, Crashgate.
Yes.
Number 2, Singapore Sling.
Yes.
And number 3, the race that the 2 Ferraris knocked each other out on the start in the wet.
Yep. Where they like pinched Max,
Where they pinched
think.
Max, and Max was like, I'm out of here. And then they crash and they both like get out of the race within the first lap.
What about the Seb safety car where he just runs into Hamilton?
That was Baku.
No. Where they hit tires?
Yeah.
That was
all.
Baku.
Yeah.
Okay. You're right.
But good point. The race that Seb won in his final year with Ferrari, that was iconic because Ferrari like screwed over Charles.
They did. Big time.
Now, is that the most iconic thing from that race is a guy who was clearly not competitive won a race, and we were happy for him.
Could be.
I like it.
Yeah.
But the 3 most memorable things to me are not really. There are the Singapore Sling was really unique. The other things are just mega moments, and maybe the crucible of a difficult track creates memorable moments like this. Crashgate was clearly someone telling him to crash
but we don't know that.
No, we know that. I don't believe any of that other stuff. He did it on purpose. We know that. Alonso won that race because of it. It's fun though. I have it a 3. It's not like I put it as a 4 or a 5.
Right. We're not far off.
The night thing is fun, and to your point, the night certain cars look way better at night.
Yes.
And Singapore was
liveries.
We love a livery chat. It was awesome. It's awesome. The way the cars look there is fun. It does seem it's a unique circuit, but the uniqueness has been diluted by the other street circuits that don't hit
the marks.
Right. That just don't do it. Monaco is an iconic circuit as a street circuit. Singapore is trying to sort of be like the Monaco of
the East,
and that's fun. I like it. But once you start making all the street circuits, that's not unique. It's not cool anymore.
And we'll get into that.
We'll get into them because a lot of them are not good.
So we're getting into where I have 3s and you have 2. So flip-flop where we were.
Sure.
Secure.
Bahrain.
Or Bahrain.
Yeah.
I have it as 3. You have it as 2. Why do you have it as 2?
I have it as a 2 because I think that there are specific sectors and corners in the circuit that have become spectacular from both a viewing experience and a driving experience. Specifically this last year where Fernando Alonso passed Hamilton into the very tricky double left corner of 9-10 or 8-9. I can't remember.
Going onto the back, quote unquote, back straight.
You're right, the back straight. It just showed how unconventionalness at a circuit that has been around for close to 20 years now is still interesting. It's still warranted to take a chance at a circuit that's 20 years old and find something unique about it. And who else would have done that? I just feel like it's a track that allows a good driver to show others what they've got. I think the track is unique. It is a little repetitive with how much straightaway there is in terms of like the first straight
turn, straight, turn.
It's a little bit like that, but it also provides us multiple layouts, which during COVID
that did pay
was
off.
Actually really interesting. I think there's a reason that they chose it to go first on this calendar now ahead of, right. It also is money, but like they're testing there. It offers the teams what they need to know what their car can do. Slow speed corners, straightaways, fast speed corners. It's got it all. Like the sector coming out of the back straight along the back side of the pits.
Where you kind of go up the hill.
You go up the hill and like
long
you make
right-hander.
Long left-hander, long right-hander into a quick corner or a medium speed corner, then back down the final straight. It's just, I don't know. It's not pretty to look at, and I've knocked other courses for not being pretty to look at, but it has the topographical features that a race needs. It has interesting corners that aren't all just repetitive, and it has evolved over time with the cars don't look goofy on it over the years that they've grown bigger and heavier.
Sure. Yeah, and that does make sense. I do like the track itself. I do think it provides some good racing at moments, and we saw that, with the other layout. We had Sergio Perez get his first win there,
right,
which we were all jacked about, I'm sure. I know I was. It can be a lot of fun. I just think sometimes you can get some of those races that are like, if you just have a few dominant cars and you just kind of get, I'm trying to think back a couple years, just some of the racing was okay. But it has gotten better. Like you're saying, it has progressed with the cars that we have now, and it doesn't look weird. So maybe I'm changing to it too, maybe. I don't know. Well, we're close on it. I agree with you a lot on the points that you mentioned. I think they're all definitely valid.
And now that they've moved it to night,
yes,
it looks pretty cool.
It looks better. I think the prices and like the day sessions are bad. It doesn't look good. No. It's not.
No.
Yeah. Maybe that's part of the problem. But let's talk about Baku. I have it as 3. You have it as a 2. Lots of straightaway. It can be fun. If you get there, I guess there's usually a lot of safety cars. You can get big duds, in my opinion, sometimes where you don't get those safety cars, those later safety cars.
No, you're right.
And it just kind of kills the race. Where the race is like an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, well, that happened. That's kind of why I have it in the middle.
My 2 is perhaps a bit generous to it. There have been some absolute duds there over the years, but I think that the races that have been awesome have been really awesome. There's even a meme about it, right? Like you think about some iconic moments, that the moment where Bottas and Lance Stroll are racing to the end for the podium.
For second place.
Lance Stroll, Williams is almost in second place and he ends up in third.
He is in second.
Right.
Gets bipped at the line.
And like, that's a huge moment. And like, it just is that awesome straightaway of catching. Qualifying is really interesting. I think the first sector through the circuit or through like the old town is a little 90 degree this, 90 degree that. It's just
Castle section.
The castle section is particularly interesting, though. That really narrow bit. We had that moment where Charles Leclerc crashed in qualifying like 4 or 5 years ago. That was really interesting. We had the Seb Hamilton knocking tires moment. I think it's just maybe it's also like in that beginning part of the season where like cars that are pseudo competitive in the beginning are no longer competitive. And so like there's frustrations, there's inter-team battles, like things, the pecking order is starting to be settled.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to be left out.
You don't want, like, it creates emotion, and like people, the drivers and the teams are sort of like figuring out like, okay, this is for real. And to me, it's fun and it's interesting, and it provides a time on the calendar where I look forward to.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just a feeling. And some of the races haven't been very interesting, but some of them, especially when they get the tire selection correct, they're really good races.
They can be fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
But maybe it is a 3.
Hey, your opinion's valid. Sometimes. Budapest. Hungary. We both have it as 3s. I think it's a fun track where you can have moments where you like Alonso defending
Hamilton
yeah. For laps and laps and laps. I think Ricciardo's pass on Bottas to get a win toward the end of the race. But then you can have like kind of like Baku. I think you can have a lot of duds, and there's usually not a lot of safety cars here. It's hard to pass.
It's very hard to pass.
Very skinny track once you get past the main straight.
Yeah.
It's just tough to pass, but you can have moments, and some races you just don't get them. And sometimes it's a few years in a row and it gets tough.
Yeah, if they could just scale that circuit up by 25 to 33%,
it would probably
be a great circuit again.
Yeah.
It just hasn't quite kept up with the changes in the cars. And that's not the race circuit's fault. That's a combination of the race circuit, F1, and the regulations. But like the cars are too big now. They can't follow that closely. And like the new regulations did help a little bit, specifically at Budapest, but it just doesn't provide us the racing that
we would want to see.
We want, right?
Yeah, race in and race out.
Right. We had some unique races there, like the mega crash, the year where Hamilton started on the grid by himself, like.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone went in for
dry tires, and he was the only one
inters.
out there sitting on pole position all by himself. I mean, it's a picture moment, but it's not a racing moment. I can't remember who won that race.
Was that
the year the Ocon won?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
See, well,
that was the Alonso defense.
Okay. Crazy race.
So yeah,
there's been some good races there in the past,
yeah.
Just not recently.
Right. So we both got that one as a 3. Melbourne Park, Australia. We both have it a 3.
Should be the opening race of the year.
Yes, it should.
Just for clarification, and it would be a 2 if it was.
and we wish it was. It's almost similar to Hungary.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about it, it's a skinny track. Doesn't make a lot of room for passing. It's fun. It's fun for the fans. It's fun to see it on TV.
Yeah.
Definitely. You have your moments. You can have your moments. You can have a lot of duds. Like the moment last year. I mean, safety cars, you had a red flag at the end. Gasly took out 3 people, blew up the field at the end. Like,
that was crazy.
Just
the famous Alonso crash.
Yep.
With Esteban Gutierrez.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
So you have your moments there, but yeah, you can definitely have duds. It's just a tough track to pass.
What's kept it in like the 2-3 range rather than 3-4 range has been the fact that we've had consistent Australian drivers throughout the years that have made the atmosphere and just the general vibe and energy from the fans electric. Right. Yeah. We've had Mark Webber for the long time, Daniel Ricciardo. Now we have Oscar Piastri. Like there's just been a connection between the racing and the fans that you don't always get at some of the other circuits because we have an F1 driver that is representing, or that the fans and the drivers
are represented by.
Yeah, are represented. It's a fun circuit. I think it's a little bit smaller. Now they made some good modifications this last year before 2023. Hopefully 2024 keeps that ball rolling and that we don't regress once again, because it is a fun circuit and I don't want to lose it. I know that I think recently signed a long-term deal, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I definitely want to keep it on the calendar if it's possible. And we'll get to Mexico City.
Yeah. Mexico, you have a 3. I have a 3. And for me, I think the only thing that keeps Mexico City interesting is the fact that it's at such high elevation that it throws a curveball or even a knuckleball into the teams, where they have to really think about the setup and the engine settings that they want to utilize for the weekend, because it's unlike, in terms of elevation, unlike any other race weekend.
It's a cooling issue. It's a downforce issue. It's kind of an engineering challenge.
Yeah.
From that aspect. And I'm sure the engineers like the challenge, but it's probably also super stressful.
Right. As a driver, you're used to turning at so much. Well, where's my power? And
Right.
There's none.
That's what you have.
This
is it. This is all you got. But yeah, you have the big long straights, the big long S section. It's fun. It can be fun. Atmosphere is really fun. The stadium section is obviously cool and unique in that aspect. I don't know how much that really adds otherwise in terms of racing, but it's fun. It's fun atmosphere. It's a fun challenge for engineers and stuff. But yeah, where it's kind of middle of the road. Otherwise, kind of group them in with the other 3s. You can have some good ones and you can kind of have some duds. But
and without Sergio Perez, I think the atmosphere would really suffer there. So,
yes, It would be difficult to keep wanting to go back, I think. Shanghai, China. I have it as a 3. You have it as a 4.
I mean, it's been so long since we've been there that
I know,
it's difficult
it's hard
to remember. So I put it as a 4 because I don't know. We just haven't been there. Actually, it is a good circuit.
It's unique.
It is very unique. There's a lot of unique corners, but it's one of those Tilke circuits that have sort of put things in it and borrowed from other circuits. You think about the opening corner is very reminiscent of Malaysia. The double straights separated by a hairpin also kind of emulating Malaysia. You've got some of the back corners, which in the middle sector, sort of similar to Barcelona. I don't know. It's been a while since we've been there, and we were 2 regulations ago.
2019.
Early in 2019 was the last time we were there.
April.
So
it'll be 5 years since we've been there.
Yeah.
And new regs. Well, yeah, obviously.
Twice over, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be fun to go back and see what these cars do there.
Let's see what the cars do.
It's unique. It's a different track.
Yeah.
There's been good racing in the past. I kind of have the middle of the road. It's hard to sway one way or the other, really. We haven't been there in a long time, so it's hard to really gauge. Ooh, we differ pretty hardcore on this next one. I have Vegas as a 3, and you have it as a get it out.
I have it as a 5, straight up, get it out. I don't want Las Vegas. It's not a good circuit. That's the end.
I have it as 3 just because it's so new, and that's pretty much it. We've had 1 year. Racing was okay, but that could come down to another factors. New surface, cold, nighttime. It's too many factors that I think could change, and like you're saying, it'll probably end up being a dud later.
It's like 50% race street circuit, 50% dedicated circuit. It was at the wrong time of day. It made for bad racing. Las Vegas City didn't want them to be racing during the middle of the day because they wanted the streets open. All right, that's fine. But the product suffered because of that.
Yeah, the midnight local start, or what time? Like 11 o'clock?
It was
or
so
10 o'clock?
late. It was, how was anyone going to be able to watch it? That's not the racing, but like, why would you make the drivers race in the middle of the night?
And then fly to Abu Dhabi for the
very next weekend. Why would you have a race at a time of the year where it's going to be so cold? Is that a safety concern? Does it make for interesting racing? 10-year deal. It was the entire weekend was all about the product of F1, not the race.
Correct. I would agree with
them
that.
selling themselves rather than them selling us a race.
And if you didn't know, this is put on by Formula One. This isn't put on by anybody else.
Correct. They're organizing this race on their own.
Correct. They are the sponsor.
And it was boring.
It wasn't that bad.
It was boring.
Well, let's move on. We both agree on these next couple. Zandvoort, we both have them as 4s. It's old track, it's skinny, it's small. It's unique with the banked corners. I'll give it that. The cars are too big.
Cars are way
Racing's
too big.
not great.
No.
Passing's virtually impossible.
I think you've got 2 or 3. The circuit itself is kind of interesting from just looking at it perspective, but once you put a Formula One car on it, it'd be great for qualifying, but it just doesn't work as a race.
It's one of those, if you scaled it,
Right.
it could be great, but it's not.
The bank
And it's
corner,
never going to be.
No, it won't.
So, yeah, we could probably move on. Barcelona, both of them as 4s. We kind of touched on this. Well, in our previous podcast, we touched on Barcelona. They made some updates to make some changes for better racing. I think they worked a little bit, but it's still, racing's not great. It kind of just hasn't
the
been.
circuit too well.
They've been there too long.
Yeah.
They're moving to Madrid.
Right.
Street circuit.
In 2026. We'll see how that does for Spain. I know folks in Barcelona aren't happy about it, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
That's right. And we'll get on to my first 5.
Your first 5.
Abu Dhabi, I have as a 5. Racing is mostly terrible every year. Yeah. The only times it's not is when somebody's trying to back somebody up to either win a title or gain some positions in the standings for the last race of the year. I'm glad they don't award double points anymore here, because that was horrible.
That was bad.
Another gimmick. And sure, it's a nighttime. It's Yas Marina. It's kind of cool in that aspect, but it's not special otherwise. The racing's not special. We had 1 year with a late safety car in the championship deciding race, but that's never going to happen again.
No.
Nor should it. In that scenario.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have it as a 5.
For me, it's a 4 because of the changes they made a couple years back. They made the racing more interesting. It allowed for overtaking on multiple places. The limited overtaking we do get at the circuit, but it's also like the swan song of the calendar, right? It's now the finishing race of the year. We don't believe it should be. We would rather see Brazil be the last race of the year, but I think the changes that they made, and particularly the first part of Sector 3, made the final part of the track more interesting, and it's a fast circuit, and I like that. But it's not, having it at night is boring because it actually looks better when it's not nighttime.
Right.
That's the sad part. It looks better in sunset.
Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. We both have them as 5s. This was built, 2 years ago?
3?
3 years ago?
Because it was at the end of the
It's
season.
really like 2.5.
Right.
Because it was toward the end of the year, the first year.
Right. But that was the title fight between Hamilton and Verstappen. Yeah.
It's supposed to be temporary also, because they're supposed to move this racetrack to Kuda. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but yeah, get rid of it. It's a high speed danger zone. It doesn't feel fun. Doesn't feel unique. I don't know. There's nothing special about it. It's only been there 3 years, so maybe I'm wrong, but I don't enjoy it a whole lot. What do you think?
I don't like it at all. I also have it as a 5. It's boring. There's like one interesting corner, maybe 2. It looks super dangerous. Too much damage is caused by cars, too much safety incidents, way too many red flags. It's just a lot of blind corners. Someone is going to get hurt there eventually. And there's a lot of obvious reasons why we shouldn't be going there.
Yeah, and for other reasons.
That's what I mean.
Yep. And our probably least favorite of all, I think we could probably both agree.
Even with the unsaid things about the Jeddah circuit, this is the worst one.
We're going to Miami.
And we shouldn't go back.
We both have them as 5s. If I could give it a lower ranking, which I probably should have put on here, I would have.
Yeah.
Racing's bad. Track's bad. Surface is bad. Atmosphere's bad.
Yep. You nailed it.
What's good?
The special liveries that we get for the weekend?
Bad.
Bad.
Nothing's good.
Nothing's good.
The helmets they put on after the first year podium. Bad.
I would rather have Las Vegas than Miami.
Yeah. And that's
saying a lot for me.
Right.
Miami is just not, it's literally in the armpit of a freeway. It's literally in the parking lot of a stadium. They painted a fake marina.
Yes. And put yachts on it.
And put boats on it. It's gimmicky. It's the worst America has to offer. I would rather race at COTA twice.
Oh, easily. Back to back even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Track's bad. Everything about it's bad. It's not fun. It doesn't look good.
No.
Stadium.
It's stupid.
I don't know. It's, yeah. You say you go.
Replace it.
You go underneath like an exit ramp.
Yeah. It's like an armpit.
And it's like the worst corners in Formula One. It's
Awful.
clumsy. It's like uphill. I don't know. It's bad all the way around. So yeah, that rounds out the calendar. Do you have a few tracks you'd like to add?
Yeah, if we could get rid of Las Vegas and Jeddah and Miami, I think there's some that I would slot in. First off, I think we both agree we would both appreciate a smaller calendar.
Yes.
So this isn't like circuits that we would instantly want to add to this to make more or replace some and keep the same level of racing. The 3 that I would like to see added would be Istanbul. I find that circuit to be very interesting, especially the quadruple left-hander is just one corner after another, just boom, 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 boom. The year that we raced there during COVID, they screwed up with the repavement. It had rained. It was
we had 2
awkward.
of them, right?
I think we just had the one.
I don't know. Okay, continue.
And it was fun. It was fun to go back.
That was the Lance Stroll pole.
Yeah, that was.
Yep.
And it just, there's a lot of interesting parts on that circuit that we don't see anymore in F1.
Old track.
It's not super
Well,
old.
for modern F1.
Yeah, for modern F1. And it just fell to the wayside. I don't know. It was one of those that we went to for like 3 or 4 years, and then we came back during the COVID years, and I like it, and I think there was fun racing. Maybe the one time we went there during COVID didn't really present the opportunity, a commercial opportunity for the organizers, but it would be fun to go back there again. I think that we need something in Germany. The fact that we don't have a German race at all on the calendar is...
And you'll have 2 German manufacturers.
We'll soon have 2 German manufacturers. We've had German drivers for a long time. I think it's approaching criminal that we don't have a German race, whether it's at Hockenheim or it's at Nürburgring. Take a pick, alternate. They alternated for a long time. Obviously, there's just not money to be made there, and I know that's the reason why they don't go there.
It's still criminal.
It's still criminal, and there should be a race there, period. And then lastly, I would like to go to South Africa, to Kyalami. I think we need a race in Africa.
Yeah.
This is
the only continent that there's not one in.
Yeah, aside from Antarctica, which is fine, right? Like, no one's expecting us to race there, but we're missing an opportunity to be a global sport, a true global sport, and it honestly looks like a fun race. If someone in, say, Morocco or Egypt or another country in Africa wanted to host a race, I'd be happy to support that as well. I legitimately think that the circuit looks interesting, and
they've raced there before previously.
Yeah, in the 70s and the 80s, they raced there and they pulled out for political reasons, which was the right thing to do. It would be fun to go back.
Yep.
And there are other circuits that would be fun too for other reasons. I just tried to hit one that was interesting from a driving perspective, interesting from a history perspective, and interesting from trying to be global and different and do something. You know, if you wanted to pick 3 straight up driver circuits, you could find them. Honorable mention, Mugello.
Yeah. Portimao.
Portimao is really fun. And you've got a list here as well that you want to talk about, but those were my 3/4.
Yeah. I also had pretty much something German. I was in that same boat as you. It's getting criminal that there's not one. I understand, like you said, money reasons. What's the big reason why there's not too much money to be made right now there. But what I had was Sepang. That'd be fun to go back there. Another unique track. Lots of
The rain.
curved corners of rain, just humidity, huge straights with hairpins. Like, it's a unique challenge. It's fun. They pulled out because of money reasons as well. Ultimately, it wasn't cost effective for F1 to be there, so they pulled out theirs. But I'd like to see that back on the calendar. The other one I had was get something new. Maybe do the Kimi Ring.
Yeah,
I know
in
that's a top grade track in Finland. Not named after Kimi Räikkönen, but this is a KYMI. Just a different racetrack. I think MotoGP is starting up there this year. I'm
Okay.
not sure if they went last year, but I think they're going this year. So yeah, I think it'd be fun just to go to a different track that's unique and something different that they haven't been to. It'd just be a new challenge.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are some great mentions. Formula One's all about the money. They're all about the branding. They've continuously brought in street circuits. I think that trend is going to continue. I think we'll eventually see 50-50 split between street circuits and road circuits, honestly.
It'll be disappointing.
It'll be disappointing, but that's the trend that we're seeing, and they're trying to commercialize it further, right? Like, one of the problems with putting a circuit in Spa, there's not a way to sell hotels, and
it's all campsites and
right. And like Silverstone has that possibility, right? Like, I don't think Silverstone will go away, but you think about some of these circuits that they're huge. They take up a lot of space. They need to be out on the periphery, and F1 wants to be able to sell tons of seats and sell a city, a venue, an experience, a weekend, right? You would think about camping in the Ardennes Forest, or you think about spending your weekend in Singapore.
it'd be fun.
They honestly both would be fun,
But Singapore is
Singapore
probably
would be
the
a lot of fun,
right.
right? You think about like Miami. You can sell Miami as a destination.
But where the track is horrible.
It's horrible,
It's away
right?
from the city.
We'll see. Do you want to talk quickly about tracks whose contracts are set to expire, since we're talking about ones that we like and sort of the evolution and changing of circuits?
Yeah, we got a couple on here that we know is expiring after this year. Suzuka, which is a 1 on both of our lists,
Yep.
and Silverstone.
Which we both like.
I'm sure they'll re-up. I don't know how they see, or I don't know how in this world of F1 you have
Right.
3 British drivers, right?
3 British drivers.
You have-
Almost all the teams are British, really, when you think about it, except for Ferrari.
Right. You have the ultimate driver's track in Suzuka
Yep.
with a Japanese driver.
Yep.
On the
And
count-
Honda in
Yes.
and out. They're
Well,
still
they'll be
there.
back too
They'll be
next
back.
year. So, yeah, I bet you they re-up their contracts.
I think both of those will be back.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a circuit that never was.
Hanoi, Vietnam.
Vietnam, the Vietnam race.
We had tickets to go. COVID
have
year.
them.
We have tickets.
Physical tickets.
We have physical tickets. We were going to go 2020.
But something happened,
COVID happened.
and we did not go
No, flights got canceled like a month before probably. And
weeks before.
they didn't officially cancel the race until like a week before.
That was insane.
Yeah, it would have been a fun trip. I got a family there, so it would have been fun to do all that. But yeah, it probably would have been a
think-
dud of a track,
have
but
they
it could have been
taken-
fun.
Yeah. God, have they taken down the YouTube video of the simulation for that circuit?
I doubt it. It's in the F1 game.
Oh, it's in the F1 game.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's in the F1 game.
okay.
So
Then it's
if
there.
you want to drive it,
Yeah.
you go to the F1 game. It's unique, but man, it's
That would have been a fun circuit. They would have had that at the early part of the season.
huge straights.
Yeah. It would have been Malaysia-esque.
Probably definitely not as good, but
No.
it would have been fun. It would have been humid. I can tell you that
Super
much.
humid.
Humid, hot. Ugh. Would have been fun though.
Oh, man.
Would have been
and
fun
that
to be
was
there.
Like, that would have been so much fun to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's our track talk for this week.
That's Track Talk. All right. Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah, I think
It was a good topic.
I think our next episode we'll probably do some livery chat.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the 2024 liveries for all the cars, what we like about them, what we don't like about them.
What we wish we had.
What we wish we could have, yes. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the best liveries for each team.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Well, thank you for joining me, Alden. This has been the Pit Lane, a Formula One podcast, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Dun, dun, no.